Talkward, Cringeworthy Tales. And now, your host, weekly humorist, editor-in-chief, Marty Dundix.
Hi, and welcome to Talkward. I'm Marty Dundix, editor-in-chief of Weekly Humorist magazine, and this is Talkward, a fun little podcast where professionally funny people come to tell awkward and cringeworthy stories. And I'm super excited for my guest today. I wanted to have her on the show forever, and it took me losing my podcast studio, losing my office, New York being shut down and no live events happening, me having to rebuild into a Weekly Humorist video bunker, and now we have Emily Flake on the show, and I'm so happy to have Emily Flake. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. It only took an apocalypse.
I know, really. We have so many things to talk about, and you've had such a fun career. You're a cartoonist, you're a writer, you're a performer, stand-up comic, educator. You do a lot in the humor space and the organizational spaces. I was talking about you to Caitlin Kunkel the other day, and it was just we were talking about the project that we're going to discuss a bit more on the Kickstarter. Just like on top of being just a comedic talent, you're very good at like management and business and being able to like pull a lot of things together. Not tons of comedy talent are that good at also the administrative side of these things.
I feel like that is a misperception that I am good at any of that stuff. Basically, if you could see the rest of my workspace right now, you would see that I am just the most disgusting of slobs. But I do, when I have an idea that I think might like work, I like to move on it more quickly than might even be necessarily a good idea. So yeah, I definitely, well, I was going to say like, I am definitely not good at organizing things, but I also, booked and produced 2 shows before all this happened. Like 2 like regular shows. And I guess, putting this Kickstarter together required like at least like a suspension of disbelief in my own ability to pull something together. This is a long-winded way of me saying like, I appreciate the compliment. But I am a mess.
The amount of live shows, I mean, so all the live comedy stuff that was indoors, there's a lot of fun outdoor comedy stuff happening in New York right now. People are doing comedy on rooftops and in parks and things. But the amount of shows that people, yourself, you were booking tons of shows. I was booking a monthly show. That, when all that stopped and you had some time, a break from having to do that, it's been interesting to see what has filled that space that you used for stressing out about getting a crowd, stressing out about booking talent, stressing out about promoting. And instead, people have found new projects to fill into those holes.
Yeah. You're gonna put something in your stress hole.
Yeah, definitely. Like I was like,
your stress hole cannot be empty at any time.
I have too much time. I need to find something else that's going to crush me.
Yeah.
So I'm going to publish some books, and I'm going to do some TV development that's going to be way too much work and way harder than I thought it was going to be. And you decided that you were going to start a Kickstarter that's going to buy property and give space for artists to have a residency program. Mm-hmm. And this is so fun. This is the St. Nels. And I had it up on the computer to read through all kinds of things. But tell us about your project. How did you come up with this idea? St. Nels Humor Writing Residency.
So basically, I feel like everybody, especially in New York, kind of has this dream of like owning some property and turning it into like a writer's or artist residency of some kind. I feel like it's you either want to do that or you want to have goats. And I admire goats, but don't really care to look after them. So that's kind of been in the back of my mind as wouldn't that be nice to do someday? And then this summer we ended up spending a lot of time in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, because it was an easy enough drive. There was a hotel that was affordable and had an outdoor pool, and their COVID numbers were good. So we spent some time out there, and looking around at the property, I'm like, this is somewhere where that could actually happen. You know, the property is reasonably priced. It's like a very small city, so it feels like engaging and interesting in a way that, like, personally, I am not super into the woods, so I'm never like, I want to run away to the woods to work. I'm like, I want to go to just somewhere else.
Yeah.
But a place that's like still a place. And so basically, you know, once, you know, I was kind of talking this over with my husband, and I'm like, oh God, you know, I wish this would be, you know, like, basically, like, you know, like, nobody says this 5 times a day, but like, I wish we were rich. I wish we could just do this. He's like, well, why don't you just like, maybe start a Kickstarter? I'm like, oh, that is not a bad idea. So, yeah, long story short, I was like, I'm going to pull this together. And what made this happen quickly is that, you know, there's a lot of stuff coming up. A lot of stuff is going on in the world.
Yeah.
And I was like, I need to get this going, like, you know, now, so that, hopefully we pull it together before the world ends, and maybe the world won't end and we'll have like a nicer world to make fun of. That's the hope.
And the property, would have 2 people, 2, female identifying writers. Mm-hmm. At a time, and they could have, like, was it 2 weeks at a time? They would get to go and do projects and be creative.
Yeah, so the thinking is that we will do it sort of like a monthly cycle kind of thing, because it's ladies now. And yes, I should make the point that this is a residency for female identifying women, like non-binary, etc. Basically everything, but you people, Marty.
I know, I don't get to go. It's going to be.
Sorry.
There's eventually going to be some situation. It's going to be like a bosom buddy situation where someone tries to sneak in,
right,
and they get exposed. But yeah, Marty,
somebody's going to start like the men's rights activist humor writing like residency, and it's going to be
terrible.
But so basically, you know, because we live in Brooklyn, we don't live in Williamsport. The thinking is, you know, we'll start a new residency every month. So the residents, and I think 2, possibly 3 people in there is a good mix of, like, everybody will have like their own little bit of space, but they won't be totally lonely. And so they can stay for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, basically as long as they want within the month, as long as, you know, there's like a 5-day window for me to kind of reset the house for the next thing.
Right.
So the plan as it stands right now is, you know, if this goes through, get it together to do sort of like a pilot run with like invited people, and then open it up in the fall for like an application process. So our plan as it stands right now is not to charge for the residency, but to charge, like, to apply, like, have like an application fee that helps us cover the nut on the house. Our goal is just not to hemorrhage money, basically.
Right. Isn't that interesting? That this is a wonderful plan. And the funny thing about art people that talk about making something, it's always like, I just want to break even. I just don't want to lose tons of money doing this thing I want to do. Yeah. And other, you know, boring financial type people are always making all this money. And then there's creative, funny people who are like, I just don't want to lose a ton of money. That's all I want.
Right. Where, you know, you're like, I mean, I'm not some asshole who wants to make a living or anything like that.
No.
Yeah.
I just don't want to lose everything.
Want to, like, not be in debt. That's all.
Or just not a ton of debt.
Yeah, exactly. Not an insurmountable, unserviceable debt.
We're okay with, like, this kind of debt where we don't have to think about it all the time, and it's down the road, and who knows what's going to happen. So am I ever going to have to really pay it?
Right.
Yeah.
Boy, that's basically my debt philosophy.
Yeah.
Have you met my student loan? I'm 43, by the way.
So you have a little bit of time left on this Kickstarter, and using Kickstarter is a great, I mean, it lets you appeal to people and kind of get small donations that make a huge difference.
Yeah.
And then people get something in return. That's nice. They get rewards. I'm getting a portrait, which I'm afraid everybody has bothered you and gotten the portrait, and you're going to have to paint so many of our ugly faces.
It is my pleasure to paint all of your hideous faces. No, I mean, I'm really happy that people, like, responded to that tier, because it's like, I feel like that's at the $100 thing. That's not like no money, but it's not like, oh, shit, I can't,
Yeah.
And that feels like something that like will be enjoyable for me to do and hopefully enjoyable for people to have. And, I mean, I'm not painting like giant oil paintings on it. I mean, I'm basically just making a small portrait for everybody. And when I say portrait, I mean, I will be drawing a circle with two eyes and a party under it. So yeah, strap in.
Good enough. I'll take it.
Yeah.
And then you're also, you're an author, and I have the book that came out this past season, right here. This is That Was Awkward: The Art and Etiquette of the Awkward Hug by Emily Flake. And this was a fun event. I remember I went to this book event at Books Are Magic, I believe. This was the book event, and I got a bingo card about awkward hug bingo.
Yeah. And
now any hug would be awkward and illegal in our current times.
That book
is touching.
Such a relic of the before times.
It is. It's so before times. It's so much touching.
It really makes me sad. I really, really hope we get back to where hugs can be awkward and not potentially deadly again.
We can yearn for the awkward touching that there used to be.
Yeah, I am not. I'm a very physically affectionate person. This whole jam is not great for me.
No. Terrible.
I'm sure it's just wonderful for everybody else.
I walked out of this. I'm very good at the masks. I'm very obsessed with all of it, and I'm constantly doing the hand sanitizer, and I have it always with me. And I was running in and out of the apartment over the weekend, and I realized as I crossed the street and almost went to the computer shop to pick up my computer that I wasn't wearing a mask. And the panic you feel, like when you forget for 1 second, you just walk outside and you're like, it's like you're not wearing pants.
Totally.
You're like, oh my God, I'm naked. And I ran home. I was like, no.
No, it's real.
Yeah, it is.
Have you had maskless dreams yet where you're like, oh God, I forgot,
I haven't had the maskless dreams yet. Man.
I've had dreams where I'm in a crowd and nobody's wearing a mask and I'm like, oh, geez, it feels very weird. And I'm not I consider myself to be I'm taking reasonable precautions. I wear a mask and I hand sanitize, but I'm not going to see anybody even outside, even just, you know what I mean? I'm not in a bunker here. But it really seeps into your thinking in a way that even when I watch TV now, I'm like, oh, he's going outside, but I can see his face.
Yeah. Or if you're watching an old show or anything that's before times, it's oh, they're too close. Oh, he shouldn't go. Look at all those people eating inside.
Yeah, I know.
Uncomfortable.
Again, I hate that so much.
Yeah.
I mean, one of my favorite things in the world to do is be in a venue where people are laughing or singing or somehow mushed together, breathing. I have to believe that we'll get back to that someday because it's very depressing to think that's never going to be a thing again.
It'll be a thing. I do keep forgetting about it, though. I think I'm so... I stay home all the time anyway, so, right. I was always staying home by myself. And I haven't had the news on, so I haven't been reminded of how terrible things are on, a minute-by-minute basis anymore. So I keep falling in... I keep forgetting and then remembering and then being sad. I'm oh, that's right, everything's terrible. For a second, I completely forgot that everything was terrible, but it is terrible.
If I ever forget, my daughter will remind me very quickly. But I fell down this YouTube rabbit hole watching old replacements shows. And it felt like I was watching some kind of transgressive new kind of pornography. Just watching these bodies mash together and writhe and jump on each other, and it was ooh, it's almost titillating.
Yeah. It's like the new porn. It's just people skin touching or seeing someone's face. You're like, whoa.
And if it happens to involve a young Paul Westerberg, I'll take it.
You do a lot of stuff for the New Yorker. You write text comedy, but then you do a lot of illustrative comedy. Sometimes at the same time. A lot of it seems to me, after meeting you, because I always appreciated your work, and then I met you and I know you as a person now, is a lot of your stuff autobiographical? Like, does a lot of the stuff happen to you or happens to your family, your daughter, your husband, and then you're using them a lot as characters in your cartoons?
Yeah, for sure. Especially like the longer form stuff, like I have sort of like an intermittent mother like parenting comic that I do for the New Yorker, and that's like directly from my life. A lot of the gag stuff comes, very few of it very few of the gags that I submit have like a direct correlation with something that happened in my life, but they'll definitely be like reflective of something that I've been thinking about or doing. The satire pieces I just kind of draw, I think, from the ether of absurdity. But then like the sort of more serious essay stuff is definitely more autobiographical.
A lot of times I am unaware of a lot of things that are happening in the world because I kind of live in my own little bubble. And I find out about news items based on what people submit to Weekly Humorist.
Right.
So I'll be like, I don't understand why this is funny, but I'm sure it is funny. And then I'll have to go and look it up. And I'm like, this is hilarious.
Right.
And so a ton of stuff like stuff that you do is always so funny. And sometimes it's based on something that just happened or something that's on Netflix or something that, everyone watched but me. And I always will take it, and then I'll go and watch the thing after I've already posted it. I'm like, I'm sure this is funny. It's right. Emily. Emily Flake is always funny. So I put up the...
One of these days, that's going to trip you up, and you'll realize I'm a monster.
But I put up the octopus teacher piece last night, and I still have no idea what the Netflix show is about the octopus teacher.
If you have an hour and a half and you want to watch a South African man fall in love with an octopus, it got a lot of, like, everybody I know was like, oh my God, that was like the most heartwarming, like touching thing ever. And I watched it, I was like, this really is giving me the creeps, to be honest. Like, because, not even because it's like, a beautiful friendship between a human and an octopus. That's fine. And obviously this man really draws a lot of like his strength and healing from nature. Also fine. But I just got this vibe of this guy who needed a female to heal him, and it may as well be a nice girl like you, 8 legs. So yeah, it was, I don't know. I might just be the cynical monster who can look at a beautiful story and be like, I don't know, bullshit.
That guy's fucking that octopus.
I've been that octopus.
Well, because there's a lot of, there's another documentary about remember that man and the bear?
Yeah.
And it was like, do not love the bear or whatever. And the guy gets eaten by the bear. Like the bear kills him.
Yeah.
So it's like these people sometimes have these fictitious relationships with these animals that they become obsessed with. And the animal's like, I'm going to eat you, buddy. Yeah. I appreciate that you're like cuddling with me, but at the end of the day, you're food.
Once I get hungry, you're fucked.
Yeah.
No, that would be a great double feature though. The bear movie and the octopus movie.
Do not love the bear.
Yeah. I looked into his eyes and all I saw was horror, and it's like, oh, I wish I had that quote handy.
What are you working on now? The Kickstarter thing is going. We're promoting it. Everybody has to give something to it. There's tons of great rewards. So you're getting a lot out of this. So we have, I think, 10 days left on the Kickstarter.
10 days. 10 days.
That is big.
Yeah.
And you're almost there. You need $50,000, and you have 42.
Yeah, like a touch more than 42. So we're within shouting distance. And yeah, it feels like I am cautiously optimistic at this point that it'll work.
Have you reached out to celebrity friends to give it a tweet?
Yeah, absolutely.
Get those people to tweet it.
Yeah. So, I basically have exploited whatever I could exploit as shamelessly as possible. Good. I asked everybody I knew who I thought might do it, to either contribute something as a reward or tweet it, or I basically pulled every string I thought that I had. Got
to get that Gondelman to retweet it.
Yeah, that guy. No, I think his tier got bought, actually. Like, one of the tiers was Josh Gondelman will call you and leave you a minute's worth of affirmations.
Oh, that's
honestly,
nice. Maybe I'll
right?
trade. No, I like my portrait, but he is very uplifting.
He is. He truly is. And I mean, I honestly feel like that's worth it. That's an hour of a minute of Josh is like an hour of therapy.
Yeah.
So yeah,
He's so supportive. And
but he's wonderful. I adore him. And yeah, so I'm like posting about it at least twice a day. And I was talking to I have a friend who works for Kickstarter and has really helped me with this process. She's like, this is what you want this to look like, etc. And I was like, I'm like, I don't want to I feel bad just posting about it too. And she's like, no, this is your job until it's funded, is to be as obnoxious as possible. So I am doing what I can.
It looks great. The way that you illustrated the whole "what is this? Tell me about it." I think that looks fantastic, and it's very informative, and it sounds like a wonderful thing to contribute to, and it sounds like a beautiful place to have a retreat. Mm-hmm. And totally, I look forward to seeing what kind of creativity comes out of it. It's gonna. Right. So what do you have coming up? So you have how many cartoons do you have in the process at any given day? What are you working on right now for a variety?
Now I'm illustrating a book of haikus by comedians that Gabe from Littlefield is putting together.
Oh, cool.
And just regular New Yorker stuff. Just sending in a batch every week or almost every week. And what else am I working? I'm very behind on a book, a young adult book proposal, and just various other projects that come in, and I'm trying to keep as many balls in the air as possible.
Have you guys been doing, because you can't go into the New Yorker to do the in-person pitching or the visiting or that kind of thing. Are you guys Zooming? Are you guys having a New Yorker hangout?
No, you just email in your batch, which, I mean, honestly, I did that most of the time anyway, because if I don't have to put on pants, why would I put on pants?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, that process hasn't changed a whole lot for me as it is. And going in person kind of, was less fun once they moved to the World Trade Center anyway, because it was when it was in Times Square, people would go and then everybody would go to this charmingly down at the heels French restaurant for lunch, and you could really make a whole day of it, but that kind of fell off once they moved to the World Trade Center.
Yeah.
Wah, wah.
Wow. This is wonderful. Thank you so much. Do you have any so the live shows that you do, I did see that you were doing some on video, on remote. Yeah. So you have that show Nightmares?
Yep. I had a monthly show called Nightmares and kind of a quarterly-ish parenting comedy showcase called Shit Show. So yeah, in the beginning of all of this, we did a couple Nightmares and a couple shit shows. And then over the summer, it just seemed like nobody wants to.
What are we doing?
And doing those, it was fun, and I did a couple of Zoom stand-up shows, but I really felt a couple different ways about it. On one hand, they were fun, and I enjoyed doing it, and it was engaging, and it kind of keeps certain aspects of your chops up a little bit. On the other hand, everybody's just so fucking sick of Zoom, and it's it takes it out of you in ways that I always found being on stage, even if I just was eating shit, I found it energized me in some way that Zoom kind of doesn't. Sorry, Zoom. I know I'm actually speaking through Zoom right now and it can hear me.
It can hear you.
So yeah, and I just the performance piece of what I do, it is very precious to me and I miss it terribly, but it was never the main thrust of how I made my living.
Yeah.
So I was I'm better to redirect what I'm doing right now until I can until things get back to normal-ish.
Yeah.
So yeah, but now that once it gets colder, I don't know. Maybe we'll fire up the shit show again.
I enjoyed the shit show. I went to see one at Union Hall, and it was all parents telling wonderful. And I think I was the only person in the audience that was single with no children. And
right.
I was just laughing. I was just laughing at everybody. I'm like, your lives sound terrible.
That night. Stay free, man.
Yeah, it was almost like a show that was like therapy for people who were parents that have to like laugh at and then it was also like birth control for many of the people that didn't have children.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Well, wonderful. So, tell me a little bit about Saint Nell. I was looking up the history of Saint Nell, who is the namesake of your project on the Kickstarter, and Saint Nell was the mistress of King
Charles II. Absolutely not a saint,
no.
except to me. But yeah, she was a comedic actress and a bawdy lady who was banging the king. And my favorite anecdote about her life is apparently she was in a carriage on her way to the castle, and there were peasants, throwing stuff at the carriage and yelling at her, and one of them called her a Catholic whore, and she stuck her head out the window and she said, "Dear sir, you are mistaken. I am the Protestant whore." And I very much want to name the LLC that we're forming for St. Nell's Protestant Whore Productions, but now I'm like, that's going to be that means every time I sit down to sign a mortgage or sign in anything, I'll have to straight-facedly say the name of the company is Protestant Whore.
Yeah.
So do I want to do this myself? I don't know. Jury's still out. We'll see.
We'll see. Well, this has been wonderful, and I'm so excited for this Kickstarter. And if you're listening to this, please go to Kickstarter and look up St. Nell's Humor Writing Residency and give it some money. We have they only have a little bit more that they need to get to 50,000. And the thing about Kickstarter is it's all or nothing. So you have to get to that goal to get the money. And I'm sure Emily Flake would be very happy if you chipped in and she had to draw a couple more portraits of your beautiful faces out there.
I would be thrilled. So
follow Emily at Emily Flake on Twitter, and is it eFlakeagogo on Instagram?
Yes, it is.
Very good. Thank you so much for being on Talkward today. It's been lovely speaking with you.
Thank you, and likewise.
Oh, thank you. And I'll see you. Do you have any idea what our book club book is this month? I don't remember.
I have no idea. I've really fallen off on the book club stuff because my brain doesn't work anymore.
I keep on not reading them, but I go to the book club discussion just to have a social life, and then I just sort of read the Wikipedia, and everybody knows I'm lying.
You're just faking your way through the book club.
I am, but I'm going to read this one probably, and we'll see.
Well, God bless.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being on the show. Emily Flake, everybody. Emily Flake.
Yay.
Yay. I'm going to push this thing, and then it's going to end the show.
Thanks for listening to Talkward. Please subscribe, follow us, and visit weeklyhumorist.com.